It really did. We can sort of play through the thirds a lot easier, definitely with Pau, and obviously having Emmy between the sticks as well to sort of initiate that.
The biggest difference, I genuinely believe this, is between Olsen and Martinez. It's almost nothing to do with goalkeeping.
Every game in Europe is a cup final for teams coming to Villa Park. Hello and welcome back to the Villa podcast. I'm here as always with my good friend Dan Wiseman. Dan, Aston Villa 2, Olympiacos 4, the podcast nobody wanted, that everyone's dreading and absolutely nobody's listening to.
But it stung. It just stung. I was having this conversation. It's like, I don't know what it is about last night. It might be the fact that I've got flights and hotels booked for a final that we might not be going to. But of all the, I've seen us lose multiple cup finals, cup semi-finals, playoff finals. There was something about last night that it hurt. It really did. Perhaps more so than any of those games. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it was because, this season has just been a beacon of kind of hope and optimism in what's been a pretty long and arduous, 25 years of my life supporting Aston Villa, and this Conference League journey and, the semi-finals and potentially a final was kind of the crescendo of that, to be honest with you. And all of the kind of the good feeling and goodwill that's built up around this football club for so long kind of felt like it came to a peak last night with a European semi-final at home. I thought the words from Emery pre-game were brilliant. I think the fans have been amazing. I love the way that we've been welcoming the team. And it just felt that last night, I don't want to say it couldn't go wrong, but I don't think anybody saw it going as wrong as it did. And yeah, it felt like a kick in the guts, mate, that I've not felt maybe ever.
Yeah, it's hard to take. But also I think as well at the same time, as poor as Villa was, and obviously we will get onto that eventually, Olympiacos are due all of the credit in the world. I thought they set up well, had a game plan. I had to sort of do a double take when their striker scored that second goal because I was convinced I was watching Karim Benzema. I didn't realise that Olympiacos had signed him and miraculously healed his injured knee or whatever it is that he's suffering with. But yeah, I think it's moments like last night which kind of, in a weird way, and I don't think anyone's really sort of looking at it, just sort of put into perspective how far we've come. And obviously, first European semi-final in 42 years. We all know what happened at the last one. It was a big moment for the club. And I think we found out a lot about the players that did play and how the squad maybe handles the sort of pressured scenarios that we are going to find ourselves in if we sort of wade into these unknown waters of European knockout competitions. That's just how it goes, really. And, the other side of that coin is as well, that's the first European semi-final Olympiacos have ever played in. But I think one thing that we have to realise is that every game in Europe, and even in the Premier League to a certain extent now, is a cup final for teams coming to Villa Park. We're sat fourth in the Premier League. I don't think anybody there shouldn't have been anybody who expected this to be an absolute breeze and an absolute doddle. And I know we sort of alluded to the fact in the preview that they're not quite a Lille, but they've made it further. So I think it's important that we give Olympiacos that credit.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, mate. You're absolutely right. As people will look at the scoreline and go, did Villa underestimate the opposition? What happened there? And I almost think that it was the opposite of that, almost the total opposite, in that I think we got totally lost in the occasion. And, I think we almost gave Olympiacos not too much credit in terms of we were standoffish or anything like that, but I always think we didn't give enough respect to ourselves.
Yeah.
I think that the occasion, as you talked about, 40 odd years since our last semi-final against okay, Olympiacos might not be a giant of European football, but they're certainly a very, very reputable name, certainly the biggest name in Greek football. And we just got totally lost in the headlights, it felt. And I almost feel that this wasn't, I think, people that didn't watch the game will look at this and mark it down as complacency. You get this far in a competition, you have your home leg first in a semi-final, you've just knocked out the likes of Lille, and you kind of feel like you've got one foot in the final. But I almost feel that it was the complete contradiction of that. I feel like, and rightly so, I don't want to mark it down as a mistake for doing this, but we made so much of this game. There was, as I kind of said, I used the word crescendo, and it genuinely felt like that. It felt like this was the occasion that this club had been longing for 40 plus years. All of the kind of trials and tribulations, the ups, the downs, the managers, the owners, the players that have come in that time. It's been building to this moment, and we just got swamped by that, I felt. And I think that this game, if that disallowed goal stands and we get a goal within inside the first 10 or 15 minutes, I do genuinely believe this game plays out differently. That's not to say that I think we go and put 3 or 4 past them. I think you and I have spoken many times on this podcast about how we are shaky defensively, particularly at home. And I think we always knew that Olympiacos were likely to come here and snatch a goal or two. But yeah, I think there was such an atmosphere at Villa Park last night. It was so loud, and I think that this team, and we did just kind of lose it a little bit in that kind of atmosphere, and it ended up kind of just eating ourselves from the inside out. And the capitulation that followed was particularly sickening. And I think because of the flows of the game, and I'm sure we can kind of get onto that now, but the way that it kind of felt that we were in it before, and the goal was disallowed, and then we're out of it. They go 2-0 up, and then we're back in it. We draw it level at 2-2, and then there's the penalty almost immediately after. And the kind of the way that the game ebbed and flowed, and we swayed between such belief and disbelief, just added to that kind of emotional weight and pressure that we were feeling. And this game was swinging like a pendulum. And with that, the skipper at his post-match, John spoke a lot about match control, and I just think it was because of that environment, which became, as the game went on, more and more and more emotionally charged, and then it kind of builds up right to the end of the game with Dougie's penalty miss. We just never exercised the kind of clinical control that has characterised Villa at points where we've been able to run away with games in kind of organised chaos is what I would define it as, where it is so gung-ho and it's so free-flowing, but it's all managed and carefully constructed. That's when we've seen Villa at its best, and we were just at the other end of the spectrum, unfortunately.
Yeah, we were. You can't talk about organised chaos without talking about the officiating of the game, mate. It's just absolutely sham. I didn't think it could get worse. I thought we'd seen the worst of referees, not only in Europe, but in the Premier League as well. But we hit a new low with this game. And I think the issue, well, there's a number of issues really, isn't there? But, if you're looking at incidents in isolation, obviously the first goal is disallowed for a shirt ball on Clement Longley, committed by Clement Longley, sorry. I'm not convinced there's a lot in that. And then, especially when you fast forward 60 minutes and there's a Morgan Rogers shirt ball, which, Villa, we're sort of entering the final third. Obviously, he plays. There was an advantage played. Ball goes to Ollie. Ollie hits it well over the bar or does something I can't even remember at this point. No, substantial advantage was maintained there. Ref didn't even entertain it. Didn't look twice. Didn't think about booking the Olympiacos player at all who committed that foul. You've got the Bailey penalty incident as well. For me, I don't think there will be more of a stonewall penalty that hasn't been given. You've obviously got the Dougie penalty as well. I mean, why are you jumping like that? Why, when we've had so many things go against us, why are we giving the referee an excuse to penalise us? It feels so ridiculous. And so in football, you need that rub of the green sometimes. Villa weren't good. Villa haven't been good for the longest time. If we're being completely honest and realistic about performances, obviously results have been fantastic. And this is not me taking for granted the position we're in whatsoever. I don't think Aston Villa have played a full 90 minutes of football since Manchester City at home in December, where I have been mesmerised by the performance from start to finish. That just hasn't happened. And unfortunately, the position we're in, mate, when it's a knockout competition, yeah, there's still another leg to go, so it is far from done. But we're fighting a massive uphill battle now. And we've already seen how difficult it is going to, in the second leg, heading to a new place, a hostile environment with, we had a lead last time. We're now chasing a lead. So, the mountain's even bigger than the one that we had to overcome in Lille, and the one that we, sort of had to overcome with Ajax at home away first, and getting by that draw with how that game played out as well. Europe's going to punish us. It's going to test you. And, realistically, mate, we have to be back at our best if we stand a chance, don't we?
We absolutely do, mate. We absolutely do. Is this where we go? Stupid blind optimism mode? Because I'm ready. If you're ready,
we have to.
I'm ready.
I'm ready, mate. Let's do
it. Is there a school of thought, and I'll kind of throw this back to you immediately, is there a school of thought where, because I do genuinely believe this, and I know it's easy to say given that we're currently 2 goals down in a European semi-final, but I trust this Villa. I'm not going to say I would rather, I'm going to say I trust in this Villa team more going and chasing a lead rather than going to Athens and protecting a lead. I think we've seen enough. I think the Lille game is perfect to know that we probably can't go down. Villa just can't keep clean sheet at the moment for Toffee. And so if it was, we had a 1 or a 2 goal lead and we had to go there and protect that and see it out, I think I'd genuinely be a little bit more nervous than us going there and having the fire in our belly and having to go after a game. I think the topsy-turvy nature of this Villa team, do you kind of catch my drift there?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think I'd definitely have felt better about it if Dougie'd have put away that penalty. Then we're looking at it's essentially just a 1-0 defeat, isn't it? You've lost by a goal, you can get back into that. And it was, that same sort of cushion that obviously, we took a 1-goal lead to Lille, didn't we? Obviously ended up losing the game, not losing the tie though, thankfully. So knock on wood, we can get back into this. But I think so much of the sort of the line, the sort of force changes, the lineup. You're not going to hear any Robin Olsen slander in this podcast. Let's just get that out of the way immediately. Was it the best goalkeeping performance ever? No. Was it the worst? Also, no. People losing their mind at the deflection. If we are going to pick holes at any of the goals, for me, it's the first one. Bloke dived the complete opposite way. But generally, I thought his distribution was good. I feel like people got my point about his distribution twisted in the last podcast. I thought I was clear. Short to medium passes, okay. Long balls, stinking. That's what I meant. And again, Olsen showed that he can be composed and he can play out from the back. I think the issue here is Olympiacos came, and again, this was their final. They're at Villa Park in a semi-final. It's massive. The fans were up for it. They were brilliant all game. Didn't seem like there was too much trouble either. That's besides the point that I'm talking about. But they came and they attacked Villa on the front foot and they pressed us so aggressively. And we alluded in the preview, mate, that we expected them to do this and that this would actually suit our style. But I think what we didn't acknowledge is how important Emi and Pau are to actually really slowing the game down. And it's almost like when they have the ball at their feet, everything's happening in slow motion. They're able to pick out the perfect pass. Nothing is rushed. Everything is done on their own time. And we can sort of play through the thirds a lot easier. Definitely with Pau, and obviously having Emi between the sticks as well to sort of initiate that process is going to be more beneficial. And I think this is where the conversation gets frustrating around the rotation and around, who plays and who doesn't play. Because it's, what's the point in us sitting here and saying Olsen's shit, Longley's shit, when one, they're not, in my opinion. the conversation really is, God, wouldn't it have been easier with Pau, or wouldn't it have been easier with Emmy? I don't really know why Pau didn't play in this game, and I'm not as. I mean, when I saw the lineup, at least I definitely wasn't as concerned, because again, sorry guys, this is a podcast that loves Clement Lenglet. We think he's fine. We think he's good, but again, it's the sort of it's the fact that he isn't Pau, which is letting him down. It's not the fact he's bad, because we see the people around me, and it happens all European games. You get the people who, we don't always have the season ticket holders around us from the Prem, and sometimes it's nice to sit by people who aren't your regulars, but everyone's going, every single pass Lenglet made, oh man, terrible, this, that, and I'm thinking, guys, chill. Okay, he can't necessarily, or doesn't necessarily make the perfect pass every single time, but you've just got to hope that come next week, mate, it looks like Emmy's going to be fit potentially for the Brighton game, and whether Powell was being rested or whatever is potentially up with him is solved. It's a totally different proposition, because, as I say, it's almost like time stops when the ball's at their feet. It's very rare Powell makes a pass that either doesn't reach the opponent, whether that's both short or long range. We've seen, it's almost like he's got a 9-iron and a 7-iron and a 5-iron. Whenever he wants, he can pick out that perfect pass, short, medium, long range. And that can't be understated. Lenglet's passing's good, but it's not great. So I just feel like my rant has kind of descended there, but I just think that it's okay to sort of say that people had a bad game as well, because where was John McGinn for the 90 minutes? Douglas Luiz, I mean, all is forgiven if he puts away the penalty as well, mate, isn't it? But I mean, really bad 90 minutes of football from Dougie. But overall, collectively, team just wasn't good enough. It's a collective effort, isn't it? At the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, I personally believe that this game was lost in the midfield. I didn't come away from this game. I think El Khaby targeted Clement Lenglet, and I think kind of naturally he maybe struggled a little bit with that. But we were just kind of side through, and it just felt that they were just coming at us, and there was no barrier whatsoever to kind of prevent it. I do feel that this game was lost in the midfield. But again, I can't really put too much criticism on any one player. I don't really think this is any player's fault. I think naturally, and this isn't just a Villa thing, I think naturally we will look the scapegoats here, and more often than not, once one has been identified, i.e. Robin Olsen, Clement Lenglet, as soon as you've earned that tag in the past, you never really stray too far from it. And the problem is that when we go a goal down, a goal or two down, Villa Park got very antsy, and understandably so. And the players they know what the general opinion is of them, of what the fan base is. And it feeds into their play. You enter into a very vicious cycle where, Villa Park gets antsy and nervous when Clement Lenglet's on the ball, when Robin Olsen's on the ball, a pass goes astray and the crowd reacts to that. And look, I'm not blaming Villa fans for this. I'm just saying that it's the kind of the dichotomy of the situation that's created is that we kind of fuel that. And what I will say about Emmy and about Powell, and that it's no criticism of Lenglet or of Robin Olsen if you want Emmy Martinez and Pau Torres to start in their stead. It's not a criticism, and this kind of feeds back something you and I have been all season, is that Clement Lenglet, his biggest problem is that he's not Pau Torres. You're absolutely right. I think that's a fantastic way to put it, and that's okay because nobody is. We have one of the, particularly on the left foot, one of the best ball playing centre halves on the continent, and you can't just have two or three on his way in the wings. It's not possible. Clement Lenglet is kind of Pau Torres' first Pokemon evolution, and you kind of see that in his playing style. So he's just not quite that, and that's fine, and that's why he's there. That's why he's Pau Torres' backup, is because he can kind of do what Pau Torres can to a kind of C or B grade standard, whereas Pau is just straight A-star student. And it's kind of the same with Robin Olsen. By and large, I think Robin Olsen has been pretty good in recent week, but the biggest difference, I genuinely believe this, is between Olsen and Martinez. It's almost nothing to do with goalkeeping. It's those intangibles that Emi Martinez brings to a game, whereby he kind of almost feels like a complete antichrist in every situation. He's the kind of pantomime villain. And it's that kind of confidence in his been there, done it all career. This is a World Cup winner that we're talking about, that exudes confidence no matter what the games say. And as you say, is able to put his foot on the ball. I think he's spent more time in possession than any other player in the Premier League this season. I think I'm right on that. And it's those kind of intangibles, that confidence that he has, that self-confidence that he has as Aston Villa's number one, the world's number one, he's won multiple awards to attest to that, that only creates that confidence that we feel in him. And so I think when we look at Olympiacos, those two players, for me, have to come in. They have to come in. And it's not even necessarily for footballing reasons. It's just because there's almost a big, deep breath, a sigh of relief when you see those two guys in the back line because of how reliable they are. And that's no slight on Lumley or Olsen, really.
No, it's not. It's not. But, you need... I think, again, like, even to talk on like McGinn and Louise, they just look better players for having Tielemans there, and even obviously Kamara in Dougie's case as well. I don't think that double pivot of McGinn and Louise is as effective as we would hope it would be. And hopefully, obviously, Yuri will be good. I don't think we've really heard much about Yuri, have we? But in terms of just functionality of the squad and of the midfield specifically, it could be better with better personnel. But obviously you're not gonna hear a peep out of Unai Emery about that, and that's for us to complain about because he will not complain about anything apparently, which is admirable. It really is. But I don't know, man. I think the fact that I look at the Conference League, right, and I look at the opportunity to win silverware, and this it being the start of a journey for us as a club, right? But I look at a lot of these players and I think, should we make it to the final and should we win, this could be your only chance of silverware ever, unless you go and join whoever, Obviously we've got big players in our team that big teams would like to sign. But, when I look at someone like Leon Bailey, when I look at someone like Diaby, even John McGinn, I think the sky's the limit for John McGinn, but realistically I think the club he joins after Aston Villa will be a step down. So I think he's going to be here for the long haul, and maybe he goes back up to Scotland and does whatever. This is a chance to write your name in the history books. This is a chance to potentially win one of the only pieces of silverware that you can win. And that's the reason they play football. You play to win. You want to win trophies. You want to win football matches. The moment you cross that white line onto the field, you leave everything out on that pitch with the aim, with the ambition of ending with a win. And I'm maybe kidding myself into thinking that they feel the exact same way and know how important this is for their careers, even just their futures at the club, right? Because you look at someone like, let's take Luca Dean, for example. Future's uncertain. It's, all the speculation with wages and that kind of thing. I mean, if you're going to bow out with a trophy, Conference League, European trophy, what a way to bow out. I don't think he or anyone would have any qualms leaving with a winner's medal around his neck in the summer, or anyone for that matter, if we're being completely honest. And I think it's more like from our, not necessarily from a player's perspective, but from a fan's perspective, if we can show these players that we can provide them with an opportunity to win things at Aston Villa, maybe you get another couple of years out of Ollie Watkins, Dougie Luiz, Ezri Konsa, Emi Martinez. Like, it's important, I think, for the even like the immediate future that we win and we find a way to get back into this tie and to get ourselves into the finals to keep this sort of crux together.
It's one of those where obviously we have Champions League football pending, and it's something we kind of previewed this game, right, by saying that it's amazing how quickly things will change, and all of a sudden, Olympiacos at home goes from being the greatest moment in the club's last 40 years to being this has to be 3 points. If you're in the Champions League group stage and you get Olympiacos at home, you have to win that. You have to, if you want to have any chance of not even winning that competition, but going anywhere, it's a game that has to be 3 points. And so this club's ambitions and what we view as kind of success or as important or as a game we should win, even if it's down to a simple that, is going to change really, really quickly. And I think if we want to go into that competition with confidence and with belief, should we make it, we it had to start here. The groundwork stays now for proving that we belong in this competition. We have a manager that has been in this stage before. I think it was the 2014 Europa League run. Unai Emery's down 2-0 after the first semi-final. He turns it around. He wins the semi-final in the second leg, goes on to lift the trophy. We have the best possible manager for this situation. And I think it has to start here. I mean, there'll be a preview for this game, no doubt. But I don't think it's not. There has to be a goal inside 20 minutes. Yeah, there has to be a goal inside 20 minutes. If we don't do that, if we get into half time and we've not scored, it's a mammoth task. Whereas I genuinely do believe if we can go there, sneak one in the first 20 minutes, you're running downhill. I do genuinely believe that. Our problem is going to be what happens at the other end. How long can we keep them out for, if at all? And so it has to start now. It has to start now, not just in terms of keeping these players on board, but in terms of the immediate future, in terms of your football next season, proving that we belong in competition and that we can travel on the road and get results, and that this isn't a flash in the pan. Aston Villa belong in European competition, and we have the minerals to kind of perform there. Has to start in this semi-final. Olympiacos will have the benefit in that the Greek FA have postponed their game at the weekend, so they have a full week's run-up. And it almost feels like what is an incredibly important game on Sunday, we could really do without. Do without. It kind of feels that as a club, all focus is on next Thursday, and we do need to pull it away from that. But these are all byproducts of losing in the manner that we did, I suppose.
Yeah, they are, mate. They are. I think, it's a massive task, and as you rightfully say, mate, even Lille, they got the week off. So just to kind of show what we're juggling, every tie now is going to be sort of pitted as this David versus Goliath task, as it has been all throughout our Conference League campaign. But we've played an obscene amount of games. I mean, there was that stat floating around the other day, wasn't there? Diaby's already played 50 games.
That's crazy.
What? I don't remember us playing that many games at all. But it is ridiculous, and it doesn't get easier, mate, with this Brighton game as well, which I'm sure we'll touch on in a little bit before we go. There were bigger things, though, more important things, and events that sort of happened last night at the ground. Have to give a shout out to Heidi Elliot. I think she's in paramedic school and she's working on the ambulances. From sort of what I'd read in the Mail, her swift response to help. I believe it was Josh when he went into cardiac arrest. It's crazy, what are the chances that someone's there and is able to help? Obviously that happened in L2, so it was only 2 blocks away from where I'm sort of situated in the lower Holte. There was quite a big commotion. I think it was quite clear that something serious was happening. So, I've got to give her, all the kudos. Big up to the club as well for sort of responding as swiftly as they did with the paramedics, security, stewards, making sure that Josh got all the treatment he needs. It looks like he's doing well. I saw a post that his dad Jason had put on Twitter, a selfie of the two of them in hospital. They look in good spirits, and if I'm being completely honest, mate, it was almost it was hard to enjoy the game, not only because we were shit, but that obviously puts a big downer on the evening, and it kind of puts a lot of things into perspective, doesn't it, about what's actually important in life. So at the Villa, sending all of our wishes to Josh, and hopefully Heidi gets all the props that she deserves. Like, I think season ticket for life is due.
Is that like a reward?
Well, yeah.
But no, I don't want to like joke too much. It's an incredible story, and it's something that, despite kind of what was a disappointing not overall, a real lovely nugget that there's some incredible people around and are kind of associated with the club, and it never fails to surprise me what as a fan base people can be capable of. So yeah, amazing human being. Well done, Heidi, and we hope that everybody kind of involved is doing well. Yeah, glad that it seems that Josh is okay and on the mend. So yeah, from you and I, mate, I completely echo your sentiment.
Absolutely. And mate, we've not got long left on the Zoom. We don't want to run out of time like we did last week. So we should probably briefly touch on Everton before the final piece on the women's team before we wrap up as well. Everton, why do I call it Everton? Brighton. Heads all over the place. The time is clearly getting to me. This is a game that is sort of divided the fan base, hasn't it? Because you've got the camp of Thursday is more important, but should we win and Spurs lose, Champions League is ours. It's guaranteed. So it's the age-old question: what's more important, a piece of silverware or top four? And we quite literally do not have the time to discuss that. So we will put that one to you guys in the comments. I can't help but feel like if we take our foot off the gas, does that put us in a worse situation come Thursday? Winning breeds winning. You have it's that mentality in it. You get through that 90 minutes, you got a dub. It gives you that energy, the atmosphere to go and go to Piraeus and just fucking get the job done, man, which is what we need to do.
Mate, it's a good opponent to have. We have a good record against Brighton. We've won our last 5. I too think it's difficult to see kind of how we weight this. My honest opinion is that I think I look at Spurs' games and I kind of go, I can see you getting. They have to go and get something from Anfield. Like, they absolutely have to. And even after that, I think it's a tough ask. I think you can see them getting 6 points from their games against Burnley and Sheffield United. You have to assume that City will go there and beat them, but crazy things have happened in that particular fixture. So I do think we have to take care of business. My preference is that we go and win the Conference League. There's even a part of me that thinks the Europa League is the better next step for Aston Villa. That's not to say I wouldn't want the Champions League, but I think that you have to be careful of biting off too much before, more than you can chew, so to speak. And so, yeah, it's a difficult one. There's only one man that knows how we best weight these and what the kind of sentiment of the squad is. And his name's Unai Emery, and I have full trust in him to make that decision and make the right decision. We've seen that the Gaffer has definitely weighted fixtures based on the kind of Thursday that's coming after. So that we'll know from the lineup immediately what our plan is for that game.
Absolutely, mate. I mean, looking at Brighton's record as well, they've very quietly been stinking the league out as well. I think they've won twice this calendar year in the Premier League, and that's a win at home against Crystal Palace. Big match, all sort of form goes out of the window for that. And they've beaten they've beaten Forest at home. That's remarkable. And, if you want to sort of extend that to all comps, they got a 1-0 win against Roma in the second leg of their Europa League round of 16 game, which, was following a 4-0 hinding in Rome. So there was, Rome were clearly on the beach. They beat Stoke in the cup. They've beat Sheffield United in the cup. They've beat Sheffield United in the league as well, actually. Sorry, so that's 2 wins in the league. They obviously beat them 5-0. There's no excuse. Even the team that we put out the other day, they should get the job done against this Brighton team.
You're absolutely right, mate. You're absolutely right. I think, it's all we want to do is put the record right for last night, right? But, we do have to recognise the kind of significance of this game, and that, 3 points in here, it wraps it up. And then do you kind of view it as one last hit? You have one last week where it's a real grind. And then once it's mathematically possible, of course you can put all focus on the Conference League then. But there's, you know, you don't want to do that, and leave it all too late. It's a very difficult conundrum, and I don't envy the gaffer on that one.
No, absolutely. I'm not going to ask you a score prediction for that one, mate. I don't want to end the podcast on too much of a sour note, but obviously, big news in the women's side, mate. Carla Ward. Who saw this coming?
Yeah.
Probably a lot of people, to be fair. Probably a lot of people are more clued up on the women's side than I am.
It's a tough one. It's been a chaotic 24 hours. So, yeah, she's confirmed that she'll step down at the end of the season. It is a little bit surprising because she recently signed a contract until the end of 2025 with an extension to sign on for another year. But she has been speaking for a long time about the demands of football. You know, there's been some really strong quotes from her in recent months and in recent years, really. There's an interview with Flo Lloyd-Hughes on The Athletic where she said that she wouldn't want to be a football manager. There are some days where she feels horrendous, that she's missing out on time with family. She lives in Sheffield, so she does a drive that you're very familiar with. Every time that there's a game or a training session, she does that commute. She's always wanted to spend time with her daughter, and I think that we've kind of seen with Villa's form this season that maybe it's taken a toll on the manager, and she has been kind of suffering from that, and the club has suffered as a result. And it kind of does feel that a natural separation is probably right. But, you know, she's doing fantastic. We had an amazing season last year. We know what this club are capable of. But, you know, if there's even a slight of doubt in Carla's mind that she's not the right person for this job, then that can quickly show. And I think maybe it has this season. So, yeah, I definitely respect her honesty. Wish her nothing but the best. But, there is a slightly shocking element. But I think for people that know kind of how she's felt towards the role, maybe it's been on the cards.
Yeah, I think it's clear as well that the club maybe aren't taking the women's side as seriously as it needs to be. There's not really been that kind of serious investment, you know, sort of relied on free transfers a lot over the past year and a bit. And, you know, clearly after the sort of the way we ended the season last year, things looked really good. Felt like there was a lot of momentum around the club. Get sucker punch, lose a few big players in the summer, and you know, they clearly weren't replaced. So hopefully all of these things can get addressed. Maybe we try and get her on the podcast, seeing as she's up north with us, mate. I'm sure that would be a good episode. But guys, let us know your thoughts on the game, on everything, you know, that we've just discussed in the comment section down below. If you're listening on Apple and Spotify, make sure you follow, share, downloads, tell a friend all about it. It helps us more than you guys could imagine. So yeah, like, comment, subscribe, and up the Villa.